Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Ram Gita, English translation by Swami Vijnanananda, published by Advaita Ashram, Champavat. Ram Gita is one of the smallest, simplest, and yet most profound texts on Advaita Vedanta. Ram Gita forms the fifth chapter of the Uttarakanda of the Adhyatma Ramayana. Ram Gita embodies Rama's spiritual instruction to his beloved younger brother Lakshmana and contains the entire Advaita Vedanta doctrine in a nutshell. This is in the form of a dialogue between Lord Rama and his younger brother Lakshmana. Now begins the Rama Gita, or celestial song of Lord Rama in English. Mahadeva said, then Rama, the best of the Raghures, the Redeemer of the world, after his meritorious career described in Ramayana, began to live a life as the wise princely saints had done before. Asked by the intelligent Lakshmana, Rama related the very ancient moral stories and then that of the wanton king Nriga, who was reborn as a reptile by the curse of a Brahmana. Once, when the mighty Rama was alone and Sita was serving his lordship's feet, Lakshmana of the pure sentiment bowed down to his reverently, bowed down to him reverently and spoke humbly. O most wise, thou art incorporeal and supreme Lord, thou art personified pure wisdom, thou the Antaryami, that is, knowest thou the minds of all. Thou art visible only to those who love thy lotus feet as a bee loves to suck the nectar and who have thy knowledge for their aim in life. O Lord, I seek refuge with my lotus feet. O Lord, I seek refuge with thy lotus feet, which release from the bondage of samsara, the cycle of birth and death, and which are contemplated by yogis, those who practice concentration of the mind. Teach me so that I may easily and speedily cross over the unbounded and limitless ocean of nescience, avidya. Having heard all that Lakshmana said, the best of the rulers, the pure-minded, the remover of all miseries of those who seek shelter, Rama, in order to remove the darkness of ajnana, preached the Jnana Yoga expounded by the holy Vedas. Man should first discharge the prescribed duty of his caste, varna, and stage, ashrama, and thereby, having secured purity of mind and well equipped himself with the necessary means, then approach the Guru for the attainment of divine knowledge, that is self knowledge. This birth is the result of prior actions. Man, influenced by senses, seeks pleasure and pain and does good and bad actions respectively. His actions will result in rebirth. When born, man does actions again. The world is consequently termed a rotation, a cycle of birth and death. Avidya, the nescience, is the chief cause of this phenomenon of incessant birth and death. The Vedanta philosophy enjoins its removal. The knowledge of self alone destroys ajnana. Action, that is karma, can't destroy ajnana because action is born of ignorance. So, self-knowledge must naturally destroy ajnana completely. Action neither destroys ignorance nor diminishes attachment. On the contrary, it germinates evil action, which again is incapable of warding off samsara, the worldliness. The wise man should therefore seek divine knowledge. Question by Lakshmana. Kama or action is ordained in the Vedas like divine knowledge. as the means of salvation, and both are mentioned as duties of mind. Also, action is related as the support of knowledge. Moreover, the Vedas state that renouncing action is seen, and that man desirous to attain perfection should therefore always do action. The answer by Lord Rama. Not so. Knowledge is verily competent to accomplish the objects of liberation or moksha independently. Next question. This seems wrong as the result of the yajna, that is sacrifice, is non-eternal, although it requires various ritual ceremonies for its completion. So should knowledge require the help of good actions ordained in the Vedas to enable it to procure or attain moksha, the supreme objective of human life as ordained in Vedas. Answer. What some disputers argue as above is distinctly inconsistent with reason, because action can't be performed without egoism. That is to say, action is sprung from the attachment for the body, while by non-attachment alone Brahma Vidya is gained. Brahma Vidya means knowledge of the Supreme Self. The Brahmakara Vritti, Brahmakara Vritti is the state of being absorbed in profound meditation of the Supreme Self. The Brahmakara Vritti of mind, which is the result of contemplation of the Supreme, is called divine knowledge. Action is born of the combination of ritual rites, while knowledge destroys action. Knowledge and action, being very contrary in result, can't be together. The wise should therefore entirely renounce action and, always keeping aloof from the objects of senses, should contemplate on the self. So long as one believes himself as body, etc., through ajnana, he should perform good actions. But when the teachings of the Vedas and the transitoriness of the entire universe is established in his mind, then he has come to know the self. Afterwards, he should renounce action completely. When the luminous divine wisdom, the remover of differentiation between the Supreme Self and the individual self, enlightens the mind stuff, then the Maya with its component parts, which is the cause of transmigration, at once disappears. How can the Maya produce an effect when once destroyed by self-knowledge expounded in the Vedas? For avidya, once annihilated by secondless and pure knowledge, will not be born again. If avidya will not appear again, how can the understanding I do this appear? Means, and put differently, if avidya will not appear again, how can the sense of doership appear? The independent knowledge, therefore, doesn't want any help and is singly adopted to attain perfection or moksha. Taittiriya Upanishad clearly inculcates that all well-known sakama actions, the actions performed with fruits as its objective. So, sakam actions should be renounced, and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad moreover lays down that the means to attain moksha is self-knowledge and not action. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad moreover lays down emphatically that the means to attain moksha is self-knowledge and not action. O opponent, thou hast placed knowledge and sacrificial rituals on one and the same footing, but thou hast given no example in proof of thy allegation. Sacrifice is of various kinds and bears diversified results, but the self-knowledge is quite contrary to it. I am sinful is felt by one having corporeal and not spiritual ideas, but not by the philosopher who knows the real nature of Atman as being identical with the Supreme Brahman. The learned, though attached to actions, should therefore carefully eschew all actions calculated to satiate one's desires, even though recommended by the Vedas. With pure mind and true faith, having learned the identity of individual self, the microcosm, and universal self, the macrocosm, by means of Mahavakya, profound sayings of Upanishads like Tvam Asi, that thou art, from the merciful and gracious Guru, he will become form like Meru mountain and gain bliss supreme. In order to know the meaning of the Mahavakya, it is necessary at first to find out the true meaning of each word. Tat means the Supreme Brahman. Tvam means the individual self and Asi means art. Thus both are united as one by the word Asi. Near and distant and other similar opposite virtues of individual self and Supreme Brahman should be left out. Spirituality of both should be taken by means of accurate description, and thus understand that thou art self without any duality. As the Supreme Self and the individual self are of one nature, so Tyaga Lakshana will not consequently apply, and as some of their qualities are opposed to each other, Ajaha Lakshana will be inappropriate. Therefore, Bhagatyaga Lakshana should be appropriately used in their case. The material body made up of 5 elements, each subdivided into 5 parts, which is the result of the actions of past birth and is the medium of enjoying pleasure and pain, which is born and which dies, and that is created by Maya, is the outer disguise of the self. Made up of 5 elements which are not subdivided, including mind, intellect, 10 senses, 5 pranas, the organ of feeling pleasure and pain. The subtle body is known as Linga Sharira, astral body, the inner disguise of the self, say the wise. Again, Maya, which though unborn and incomprehensible, is inexplicable and the cause of this cosmos, and is the principal and subtle body of the Atman. Since the individual self appears to be distinct from the universal self owing to upadhis, that is, limitations, the adjuncts. Therefore, one should realize their identity by keen study and practice of Vedantic texts. As crystal looks colored when placed near a colored object, so does the self appear to take the form of the 5 sheaths, panchakoshas, in which it is apparently enveloped. But if the matter is fully considered and reflected upon, the Atman will be clearly seen to be untainted, unborn, and secondless. The threefold state of the intellect of 3 qualities caused by dream, etc., also seem to be in the self, but as they are opposed to one another, consequently they are simply false representation in the Supreme, which is absolute, blissful, eternal, and all-pervading, omnipresent. as long as the function of intellect under cover of avidya works incessantly in the combination of the body, the senses, the breath, the mind, and the self, so long does the world continue to exist. According to the Shruti, not this, having expelled the world and all from his mind, tasted the sweet of true happiness, one should renounce the world just as he does a fruit after having sucked the lovely and tasty juice of the fruit. Never will the self die, nor is born, never decreaseth nor increaseth. He is bliss, free from illusion, self-luminous, all-pervading, and secondless. Why does this visible world appear full of sorrow if self is consciousness and bliss in essence? The answer: by false attribution owing to ajnana, but it disappears at once as soon as the knowledge shines, because jnana, the self-knowledge, and ajnana, the ignorance of self, can't be in one place united together, as they are opposed to each other. When cause, that is ajnana, disappears its effect, the visible world also vanishes. When ajnana, the cause, disappears, its effect, the world, also vanishes. Mistaking one thing for another is pronounced as adhyasa in Vedanta philosophy. Adhyasa means a wrong supposition. It says the wise like mistaking a rope, etc., for a serpent. Mistaking one thing for another is known as adhyasa, wrong supposition, says the wise and enlightened, like mistaking a rope for a serpent. Similarly, the world is being mistaken owing to adhyasa, or wrong supposition, in Parabrahman, the Supreme Self. In the all-knowledge, all-creator, pervading self, free from pain, void of illusion, the secondless, aloof from the visible, this egoism is the false attribution that is first formed. All pairs of opposite qualities such as pleasure and pain, good and bad, desire and indifference, which are source of transmigration, are virtually the characteristic of intellect. But owing to wrong supposition, they seem to appear in the self, the Atman. Had they been the attributes of self, the qualities would appear to us also during sushupti, the sound sleep, where the functions of intellect don't exist. The light of the Supreme reflected in intellect, which is born of beginningless Maya, Anadi Maya, is called soul. The Supreme Self is a witness of the intellect and is quite distinct from the Supreme Self is a witness of the intellect and is quite distinct from it, as well as its qualities, while the soul is one and the same as self. As the soul, that is reflection of the Supreme Spirit, and mind accompanied by the senses, live in one place, both appear to have contracted each other's animate and inanimate qualities by false attribution, like an iron ball made red hot in fire. One who has acquired knowledge of self by learning the Vedas and from his Guru, he, having realized the faultless self in himself, should abandon all the inanimate objects which appear to him in the self. I am self-luminous, unborn, one without a second, knowable only by Jnana Yogins, pure, all-knower, free from miseries, all in all, bliss and unchangeable. I am eternal, emancipation of unchangeable powers, unable to be felt by senses, not liable to change and infinite. The wise who study the Vedas bear me in mind day and night. Thus always who meditates on the self as undivided, he attains perfection, and that knowledge at once destroys ignorance and its sequels, just as a medicine does to ailments and afflictions. Sitting in solitude, having restrained his senses from their objects and completely controlled his mind with pure conscience, having the knowledge of the Supreme as his object in view, abiding in the secondless self, he should meditate upon the Parabrahman. Having dissolved the universe, illumined by God, in Atman, the fundamental cause of all, he sits satisfied and happy and doesn't know the things outside or inside. Before entering into the samadhi, that is the state of perfect absorption of thoughts into the one object of meditation, that is the Supreme Self. Before entering into the samadhi, the movable and immovable world should be looked upon as Omkara, which means the world as is clearly indicated in the Shastras. The cause of this birth is avidya, nescience, but it disappears when knowledge shines. Omkara is composed of three letters. A denotes Purusha or Vishwa, U denotes Tejasa, and Makara denotes Prajna, according to the Vedas. This occurs to the mind before the commencement of Samadhi and not after self-knowledge illumines. One should dissolve the Akar, Vishwa, in Ukar, and again Ukar, that is Tejas, in Makar. Put differently, one should dissolve A in U and U in Ma. This is elaborately explained in the first chapter of Mandukya Upanishad. Having dissolved Prajna in the Supreme Spirit, he should contemplate I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. Having dissolved Prajna in the Supreme Spirit, he should contemplate Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, the object of knowledge, free from deception, the faultless, the eternal, the Supreme Lord, Parabrahman. Thus always established in the Supreme Self, having forgotten his worldly connections, happy in the Self, evidently the form of divine pleasure he has attained, emancipation, and he resembles a calm, vast ocean. He who thus continually observes Samadhi in this manner and has renounced objects of his passions, which are his enemies, and has attained the six attributes of Atman, can always see me, the Supreme Self. The six attributes of Atman are omniscient, perpetual, eternal gratification, all knowledge, independence, constant blooming. He who thus continually observes Samadhi in this manner and has renounced objects of his passions, which are his enemies, and has attained the six attributes of Atman, can always see me, the Supreme Brahman. Thus contemplating on the Self day and night, the saint, detached from all attachments, should remain without egoism, dependent on his fate, that is prarabdha karma. He eventually enters in me, the Supreme Self, the Parabrahman. Having believed the beginning, the middle, and the end of the world a source of fear and sorrow, and renouncing all the sakam actions, that is, actions performed with fruits as objectives, he should worship me as the Supreme Spirit who dwells in all the beings. Having contemplated on the self as undivided, he then becomes identical with me, just as water in ocean, milk in milk, air in air, and sky in sky. Throughout his stay among people, he looks upon it as an illusion, which fact is borne out by the Vedas as well as logic. Just as the moon appears of different forms to some, and also sometimes a mistake happens about the true direction of the space. So long as he doesn't see the self in every object, he should constantly worship the Supreme. I am day and night visible to my faithful devotee in his own conscience. I repeat, so long as he does not see the self in every object, he should constantly worship the Supreme. I am day and night visible to my faithful devotee in his own conscience. Lord Rama said, "My dear, I have, after determining, told thee the secrets, rahasyam of the Vedas collectively. The wise who will consider over, reflect upon, and follow them will be released from bondage immediately. My dear brother Lakshmana, the world thou seest is nothing but an illusion. Renounce all from thy mind by means of worshipping me. Thou shouldst live happily, free from pain, and with peace of mind. Whoever now and then heartily worships me, with or without attributes, he attains me. Just as the sun sanctifies the three worlds by touching them with the dust of his feet." Repeat. Whoever now and then heartily worships me, with or without attributes, he attains me, just as the sun sanctifies the three worlds by touching them with the dust of his feet. Whoever with faith in me and in his spiritual teacher studies attentively this condensed philosophy of the Vedas stated by me, who am one and knowable by the Vedanta philosophy, he shall enter in me, dissolve in me, attain me, is in fact becomes one with me. Repeat. Whoever with faith in me and in his spiritual teacher studies attentively this condensed philosophy of the Vedas stated by me, who am one and knowable by the Vedanta philosophy, he shall enter in me, is in fact becomes one with me. Om Tat Sat, 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 Om Tat Sat. Rama Gita forms the fifth chapter of the Uttarakanda of the well-known Adhyatma Ramayana. Thus ends the Rama Gita. Hari Om Tat Sat.